Most pop songs are popular for 6 months, maybe a year. In Vietnam, that was the most popular song for the entire length of the Vietnam War, among the troops, that is. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, who served in the 3rd Marine Division. He served in Vietnam from 1967 to 68. He went on to serve with distinction, rising to the rank of colonel before his retirement in 2005. Please give a warm welcome to our keynote speaker, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, Col Allan Cruz.
Thank you all very, very much for taking the time to be here today. It's nice to understand and to see in real time what's happening today when the community, with its civic leaders, its citizens, its residents, the families we touch, the families we're all part of, try to come together and acknowledge service to our city, to our country, service to each other. And it's only right that something like this happens. I cannot imagine being a citizen of a country where we did not celebrate a day like today, where we did not include the entire family, the entire community associated with the events of today. And so it's okay today to take a moment and look back. We got a little bit of that just a second ago. I can't tell you how many times, as Ray said, we'd sit out there, you know, and to the point where we'd almost, we'd yell at it out of the top of our lungs, we'd whisper it as a prayer, you know, we gotta get out of this place. You know, get me home, you know. But, and that thread is still here. We had a meeting with Vietnam veterans just recently in a presentation. We were throwing slides up, soundtrack came on, and we derailed for the entire length of the song because we were all singing that song again. And in that time frame, we were once again 19 and young and supposedly immoral and foolish and everything else that our parents used to shake our heads at. What the heck are we doing? But that's okay. Because today we're here, and today we in the Vietnam generation, if you will, because this community has asked us to speak of those times, and in this time we're in conjunction with Veterans Day. We, the Vietnam veterans, with every respect for the generations of veterans before us, those of you from World War II, Korea, the Cold War, Vietnam itself, of course, we'll come back to Somalia, Lebanon, the Iraqi War, the global war on terror, now our longest war. You know, we say what we're going to say today, fully mindful of where we stand in that long line of veterans and their families that understand service and sacrifice. So let me set the stage a little bit and a perspective for 2013. Because we have grandchildren in the audience today who are seeing perhaps one of their first Armed Forces Day. And they're understanding what grandpa or great-grandpa wore his ribbons for and asking those kinds of questions and wondering what's going on. But to understand Veterans Day, to understand the veteran, you must understand his times. And while we saw a little bit, a flavor of the statistics associated with the war in our time frame, every number is a face, every number is a person, every number is a family. And so while I gloss quickly through some numbers to help us bring us back that time, remember that's an individual that may or may not be with us still. And that's why we're here today, to honor all of that. So there are 58,272 names now listed on that wall, including all of those added up to 2011. Because as more names became known, as some of the missing converted to known dead, as some of our casualties wounded in action died of wounds. Their names were subsequently added. And we found that it was important to include that because something unique happened at the wall in our generation, in our time frame. The names are arranged in order from when they were killed, from the beginning of the war to now. You know the Vietnam Wall with the V-shaped polished black wall there on the grounds in Washington, D.C. It starts at the apex. It starts at the beginning of the war, goes down to infinity in time, goes back underground, and grows back up again so that at the end of the war, those last set of names meet the first set of names. And so the beginning and the end of the war is told the story of the wall and the names there. The war is now complete, coming full circle. And yet, it goes underground, and it's in the entire war, and its people are contained within it in that thought. The first known casualty of the war was Richard Fitzgibbon of North Weymouth, Massachusetts, having been killed on June 8, 1956. His son, Lance Corporal Richard B. Fitzgibbon III, was killed September 7, 1965, and joined his father on the wall. There are 3 sets of fathers and sons on the wall. There are 39 sets of brothers on the wall. There are 39 families, parents, who lost both sons, 2 of their sons, during that war. The youngest name on the wall is believed to be PFC Danville, 15 years old, United States Marine Corps. Obviously lied about his age. Got in the Marine Corps when he was 14, was out in Vietnam at 15 when he was killed, the 5th Marine. 15 years old. The oldest person on the wall is William McGriff at 63. At least 5 men were killed in Vietnam were 16. 12 men in Vietnam were killed in Vietnam were 17. There were 120 persons listed on the wall whose home of record was a foreign country. What great citizens they would have made. What great citizens they would have made. But they took their oath of allegiance and obedience to the armed forces of the United States and their swore to protect the Constitution. And they fought with us, and they died next to us. And they too are citizens of the United States of America in our hearts and in our minds. 25,000 of those who were killed in country were 20 years old and younger. 17,000 of those killed were married. 17,000 families. 17,000 perhaps children without fathers or mothers. Unconfirmed numbers, but the order of magnitude is real. Almost 1,000 soldiers were killed on their first day in Vietnam. Almost 1,500 soldiers were killed on their last day. There are 16 chaplains on the wall. 2 of them are Medal of Honor recipients. There are 8 women on the wall. 7 Army, 1 Air Force, nurses. Of the 7,484 women that served in Vietnam. There are 226 Native Americans. There are 22 countries represented on the memorial itself. The most common name on the wall is Smith. The most casualties for a single day was January 3rd, 1968. For those of us that were there at that time frame, 245. The most casualties in a month was May 1968, 2,415 of our servicemen were killed that day. 244 recipients were awarded the Medal of Honor during the Vietnam War. 153 of them are on the wall. Beesville, Ohio, with a population of 475. Heartland America, a small town of 475, lost 6 of their sons. West Virginia had the highest per capita rate in the nation. There are 711 West Virginians on the wall. The Marines of Morenci, Arizona, a copper town, represented the typical teenager, members of football and basketball teams. Enjoyed during roaring beer busts, the quieter moments they rode horses along the Coronado Trail, and the patriotic camaraderie typical of Morency's mining families. The 9 graduates of Morency High enlisted as a group in the Marine Corps. Their service began on Independence Day 1966. Only 3 returned home. The buddies of Danville, Utah. Boys, Leroy Tafoya, Jimmy Martinez, and Tom Gonzalez. All bullhead friends, living in consecutive streets in a small town. Living only a few yards away from each other. In the span of 16 days in late 1967, all 3 were killed. For most Americans who read this, they will only see the numbers that the Vietnam War created. To those of us who survived the war, and to those families who did not, we see the faces, we feel the pain, and that these numbers created. And we are, until we too pass away, haunted with these numbers because they were our friends, fathers, husbands, wives, sons, and daughters. This, of course, is true for our wars and all generations. And with that reverential respect for our veterans from World War II, for David Wilson, 28th Virginia Regiment, Iwo Jima, for our Korean veterans, and all the veterans that we've talked about in the other years that are also present today. While we're speaking,